Hello, people of the world, and welcome back on the Marry in Motion podcast. Today, I don't want to talk about a country or a trip. I want to talk about the tool that made all my travels possible: language. As you might know, my native language is French, and I've learned English in school. And it was not always easy, and I don't think I ever thought I would become this confident in English. I don't want to say I'm the best and that my English is perfect, but I feel confident. I speak English, as you can hear. I think I can make myself understood, and I'm trying not to do too many mistakes. So I started to learn English at school. I was always good, but never confident enough to speak, because the way in France we learn languages is very written. We learn how to write, we learn how to read. We sometimes repeat words after the teacher, but we don't really talk. And also there is something I really don't like in the French culture, is that we are quite judgy. So when I'm in France, even now, I feel a bit uncomfortable speaking English, because I know people will judge everything I say. If I have one word I don't pronounce correctly, or if I do like a mistake, they will directly come at me. And that was the case in middle school when I started learning English. So I think nobody really wanted to try, and even if you had too much of a French accent, we would mock you. If you were making too much of an English accent, you will also being mocked. So it was very, very hard. It's not really a safe space to learn, especially not a language. But I was still okay, and I thought I was good in English. I was also starting to watch TV shows in English, and I could understand what they were saying. I still had the subtitles in French, and then I think when I felt more confident, I switched in English. But I thought I was good. However, my goal was to read books in English, and I bought one book, small book. I thought, oh nice, like it's gonna be simple, easy. And then I started the book. It was impossible for me. I couldn't read anything. I had to stop every few pages looking for vocabulary. I was so slow. I didn't even register the story because I was so focused on the words. So I was a bit disappointed with myself, and I gave up. The turning point was going abroad and studying abroad. I moved to Finland when I was the first year of my master's. It was quite late in my learning English journey. I had learned English for years in middle school, high school, in my bachelor's, and I thought I was good. And so I'm moving to Finland to do this master's in English, and I couldn't speak English. When I arrived there, socializing in English, oh wow, that was so hard. It was the first time it happened to me as well. So I had to make friends, I had to be funny. It was impossible. And I was so tired at the end of the day. It was taking all of my energy to try to speak English. I tried not to have French friends because I wanted to be better and also to learn about new people, new cultures. So I really had to do a lot of effort. But I stayed in Finland for 1 year, and I actually saw a very high learning curve. The first few months, I was really so tired, and the only thing I wanted to do when I came home at night was sleep and not speak to anybody, at least not in English. For the classes, I think it was okay because usually it's written or some very deep scientific words, they are the same in French, or I completely learned their meaning in English. I don't even know what it is in French. So the classes were okay. But yeah, by the end of the day, I was so tired. But then, after a few months, I think I was more and more confident. And really the turning point for me, as we say, was to date someone. And that with this person, we would speak English. And so I was speaking English 24/7. And this was awful at the beginning. But then it really is what made me way more confident in English. Because I think if I just had friends in English, I would still be tired at the end of the day. When I didn't want to talk anymore, I could just go home. But with that person that I was dating, we were spending a lot of time together. Not living together, but almost. We would see very often. So I had to speak English all the time. It was very hard. But in the end, it really worked. And also, English was not his first language. So sometimes we had difficulties in understanding each other. Because he was better in some areas, I was better in others. And I was also reading a lot of books. Because at one point I tried again to read books in English. And I tried easy books. So like young adults, some kind of romances, this kind of stuff. And the writing is very basic. So actually, I didn't want to read in English first. I started reading these kind of books in French, and it was so cringe, I decided to read them in English. Which was the right decision, by the way, because this is way too cringe. In English, it's fine for me because it's not my first language, so I'm more detached to what it said. So yeah, I started reading those books in English. They were very easy at first, and I got more confident, and then I got also a lot of vocabulary. But the problem is that I knew this vocabulary, but my boyfriend didn't know them because he didn't read books in English, or he would read papers or stuff like that. But we had very different vocabulary, which can be frustrating sometimes. I've done an episode on being in an international relationship, and we had a whole part on the language, because sometimes I felt like it didn't allow us to have deep conversations, and we would lose some nuances in the speech, because sometimes I had a word, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I mean. I say it, and he doesn't know what it means, because it's a very specific word. So then I try to find a synonym, and then I'm losing all the meaning that the other word had. So it was really not easy. We got used to it after some time, but still, for me, it was very frustrating. And I think it would be the same if I was dating someone that would be a native English speaker. I would get, like, they could express what they mean. I wouldn't understand it. Or I could try to express my feelings, for example, or something, and then they wouldn't know what I mean because I couldn't express it. I don't know. I'm not very hopeful for that kind of relationships, but because maybe I attach too much importance in communication. I don't know. Whatever. Another turning point for me in my English learning experience was to think in English when nobody else was around. For example, if I would be alone in my house, I could imagine stuff and I would imagine them in English. That was very weird. And the worst for me, the worst or the best, I don't know, was to count. Because I think I have a problem with numbers. I can barely count in French, so counting in English, that was crazy. But I really have a problem with English. Well, no. I really have a problem with counting. When I was in high school, I was doing Spanish lessons, And we had to learn how to count because that's the basics. And every morning, the teacher, she would do, I don't know the word, but she would say numbers. We had to write them on a paper. She would say them in either in Spanish, we had to write them in French, or like the opposite, or she would say a number in French, we had to write it in Spanish. And it was impossible for me. I couldn't do French to Spanish, Spanish to French. Really, words in my head are completely abstract. And yeah, so every time it was an humiliation for me because she would say, oh, who had 10 out of 10? People would raise their hand, then, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. And then nobody would answer because people had good grades. She was like, oh, but Mary, you still haven't raised your hand. I'm like, no. Then she was like, okay. But then she would go down like 3 out of 10. No. Well, sometimes I had 1 or 2. But it was such a shame for me. And every morning it was the same thing. And I think she was a bit mad at me. As if I was doing it on purpose. But I couldn't. And well, it's similar in English, but I try not to say any words. But I think this is not a language issue. I think I even dreamt in English. I don't know in what language I dream right now. Because also there are some words I don't know in French because I'm studying in English and I'm learning new concepts in English. So I don't even know their meaning in French. And this can be annoying, I think, for my French-speaking people, surroundings, family, friends that speak French, because I would use a lot of English words when I speak French, and it's very annoying for them. And sometimes I really forget words, and I don't like it. I feel like I'm losing my French. And it might also be seen as a bit pretentious that I'm trying to speak half French, half English. And also the problem is when I speak with my family, they don't know English. So they don't understand what I mean. And that's more complicated. I'm also afraid if I'm trying to find a job or something serious in French that I cannot express myself correctly, that they're like, ooh, she doesn't speak French. Also, I cannot learn a new language now. Okay, maybe I'm a bit dramatic, but I was in Spain and in Mexico, and I know Spanish because I've done it in middle school, high school for so many years. I have basics, and I could train. I could really try to speak Spanish when I go in those countries. But no, I'm so confident in English, I would rather them to struggle in English than me to struggle in Spanish, which is bad. I'm sorry, all my Spanish people. I realized it made me lazy because when you know there is a language you are confident in and the other people can understand, then I couldn't find the right words in Spanish, so I just switched to English. That's bad. English is becoming a comfort zone, but it's keeping me there, and I have way less motivation to learn local languages. This is what's happening right now. I'm living in the Netherlands, and I don't want to learn Dutch. And I'm relying only on English, but Dutch people speak very good English. But sometimes I feel like it would show some respect, and I'm gonna live here for 1 or 2 years, and I don't even know how to say thank you. That's not okay. I will try to do better. I'm feeling slightly guilty about this. Languages is really a way to connect with the local people, and during my travels, I've always tried to learn a few words. For example, when I arrived in Indonesia, the taxi that fetched me at the airport, I chatted with him and I directly asked how to say hello, how to say thank you. And I think it's important to do that because you arrive in a new country and it really shows that you consider the people and their language and that you are interested in what they have to offer you and that you give them something in return. You are learning a bit about them, and that would be amazing to speak the local language everywhere you go. It would be so much better to communicate, to also have deeper conversations about other matters than just daily stuff. I would love it. But I'm also lazy. So, I don't know. And there is nowhere I've been yet that really makes me want to know the culture fully and learn the language. Because everywhere I've been, it was for a short time. And learning a language is a lot of effort. And I don't think I've ever been somewhere where I thought, oh, I would really love to learn that language and really immerse myself in that culture. Deeper than what I can have when I don't know the language. Maybe with Chinese, because it's really interesting. And because people in China don't speak English, so if you want to have any kind of interaction, you should speak their language. But it's also very hard. It's a bit discouraging. And I also felt, when I was traveling, for example in Nepal, I felt a bit shy to try and speak their language, which I'm acting like if I was in France, but in Nepal people would be so happy for me to try to speak. It's not like when I was in middle school and people would mock everybody. I was even afraid to say how to say hello. So they say namaste. I was so afraid to say it to everybody. Because I was staying with my host in Nepal. She was walking around the village saying hello to everybody. And I was next to her. And I was so shy to say it. I am sure I would appear as rude. But I was really just... Also namaste. The only other place I've seen it was for the yoga teachers at the end of the session. And I was like, that's weird. So I was... Part of me was like, maybe they are lying to me. And it doesn't mean hello. And they're doing that just so I can be ridiculous. Which is ridiculous. But I was quite scared to say that word. Because for me it meant something else. And I felt also I was mocking them. Because while you say namaste, you have also to put your hands in prayer mode. Like next to each other. And I felt like... I don't know. But yeah, I got used to it in the end. And I was saying it to everyone. So I got polite. But I must say that the fact that I learned a language in France makes me quite shy to try. Really to dare to talk even if you are not sure. And that's how you get better. And I think as French or as people that had language lessons in France, it's something that's very hard for us because France is bad. The teaching system is not good. People are too judgy. But well. I'm happy that now I'm feeling confident in English, and I've tried to force my siblings to learn English as well. When they were little and I was watching all my movies, TV shows in English, I forced them to do it as well. They had no basics in English. They knew nothing. And I was like, no, we have to watch everything in English. And I think now it helped them to be able to understand or be more used to hearing the language, and they might feel more confident in learning it afterwards. And I think now they're not bad in English. Just they haven't been abroad to really practice it. But I think they're like me at their age. So I think it's good. I was also shocked that a lot of French people don't have any basics in English. I was working in a restaurant and there was, I think, a Dutch couple that entered the restaurant and they didn't speak French. So we had to speak to them in English. And the chef and the other waiters, they had no clue how to say anything. So I had to step in. I didn't have the restaurant vocabulary, so that was bad. But still I tried. But they had nothing. They could barely say hello and thank you. And I was a bit shocked by that. How can you not? Because I'm more into that bubble. I read in English. All my social media is in English. Now I have English friends, so that's okay. But yeah, I wondered how it was possible. Because for me, everything is in English. Songs are in English. Movies, I would refuse to watch a movie that is dubbed. I feel like the sounds are so bad. So well, I'm very happy I've learned English since a young age and that I've been abroad to really practice it. I hope maybe I've given you some... But if you're listening to that podcast, you already speak English. But yeah, so that's useless for you. I'm sorry. But for someone that wants to learn English, I think the first thing to do is to watch English, watch movies, watch TV shows, maybe trying to go more into the English side of social media. So if you watched everyday TikToks in English, you might become better. It's also nice for slang and for real people that speak. Reading books for me really, really helps. It's really so hard at the beginning. And also I've realized yesterday, speaking with my native friends, that I know words, I know how they are written, but I don't know how to pronounce them because most of my vocabulary comes from books. So then I try to say it and they look at me like, what do you mean? And yeah, I thought I was good in English until I was hanging out with natives. And they really make me feel like I don't know how to speak. They're not nice. That was a joke, sorry. I don't want you to think I have not nice friends. So anyway, I think learning English is the way to connect with everybody when you travel. However, it's also very nice to learn the local language. Do as I say, not as I do, because yeah, I don't do it. But I would love to. And I think it would change the way we experience our travels and how we connect with everybody. And that's why I would like to travel to English-speaking countries, so I can have this proper connection with them without having to learn another language. And I think that languages aren't just tools for communication. They really shape how we see the world and how we communicate with others. It's the only thing we have in common. It's our link to everybody around us. It's a door to see the others, but it's also a door for others to see you. Well, thank you for listening to my babbling today, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye!